I get it when a friend is about to drop a few $100 on a trolling motor. The last thing they want is to end up with something that feels like a half-finished upgrade. Maybe they've been using a basic 30 pounds motor for years, and the idea of adding sonar and GPS sounds great. But they're also worried about extra weight, battery drain, and whether the whole system will actually make their day on the water smoother. That hesitation is real, especially when you consider how many feature-rich products out there end up gathering dust in a garage. I've been looking at the Minn Kota Ulterra bow-mount electric trolling motor for a while, reading through the official specs, digging into what anglers say about similar setups, and thinking through how it would fit into a typical freshwater fishing routine. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of boat you'd usually pair with this motor. The Ulterra is a bow-mount unit with a 45-inch shaft and an 80 pounds thrust rating, so it's built for small to medium-sized bass boats, john boats, or even a sturdy kayak with a reinforced bow. If you're the type who likes to push the boat a bit harder, say you're covering a lake with a strong current, or you need that extra bite when you're pulling in a heavy load of fish, this extra thrust can be a genuine game-changer. On the flip side, if you're fishing a tiny, ultralight skiff that barely needs a 30 pounds motor, you'll probably find the Ulterra overkill, both in terms of price and the extra battery capacity you'll have to carry. One of the standout bits that actually matters when you're out on the water is the built-in dual-spectrum Chirp sonar. In practice, this means you get a clearer picture of what's under the surface without having to mount a separate fish finder. I've seen anglers describe the difference as seeing the fish before they see you. In a real-world scenario, imagine you're drifting over a weed line where the bass are holding. With the Chirp sonar actively feeding data to your display, you can pinpoint a school, adjust your depth on the fly, and stay in the sweet spot without guesswork. For someone who already uses a chart plotter or a separate sonar unit, this integration can declutter the helm and reduce the number of cables you have to manage. The auto stow and deploy system with power trim is another feature that feels less like a marketing buzzword and more like a practical convenience. On a typical morning, you pull the boat out of the trailer, hook up the battery, and you want to be on the water in 10 minutes. With the Ulterra, you can press a button and the motor slides out of its housing, ready to go, and when you're done you can retract it with the same press. The power trim lets you adjust the motor's angle without manually fiddling with the tilt plate, which can be a real time saver when you're trying to keep a steady line across varying depths. If you've ever wrestled with a manual tilt plate while trying to keep the fish on the line, you'll appreciate that smoothness. Now, let's get into the GPS trolling system, specifically the spot lock and jog functions. Spot lock allows you to set a coordinate and have the motor hold you in place, which is perfect for holding a baited area while you cast a line from the boat's side. Jog lets you move a short distance forward or backward from that spot without losing the lock rate for nudging a lure just enough to trigger a bite. In everyday use, I can picture a dad on a weekend lake trip who wants to keep the family boat steady while the kids try different casts. He sets spot lock at the drop-off. The motor holds the boat steady despite a mild wind, and the kids get to focus on the fun rather than fighting a drifting boat. On the downside, the Ulterra's power management system, while marketed as efficient, does demand a solid battery setup. The motor draws a decent amount of amp hours when you run at higher thrust levels, which means you'll need a deep cycle battery that can handle the load without dying after an hour or two. If you're used to a smaller battery pack, you might find yourself needing an upgrade, adding to the overall cost. Also, the bow mount design can be a bit finicky on boats that don't have a pre-drilled mounting bracket. You'll need to invest a little time, sometimes a drill bit and a few bolts to get a secure fit, and that can be a hurdle for someone who expects a plug-and-play experience. Who should consider buying this unit? If you're an avid freshwater angler who spends most of the season on a boat that's big enough to handle an 80 pounds thrust motor, and you already rely on electronic aids like sonar and GPS, the Ulterra is a logical step up. It bundles the sonar, GPS, and motor into one package, which can actually save you